Hello, everyone, and welcome to my new series, Bigfoot Diaries, the search for Honobia's Sasquatch. I've spent a lot of time in Oklahoma's Kiamichi Mountains. It's here I've had a lot of experiences with what could very likely be a Sasquatch. Here I'll talk about my first story about the first time I ever went. It was back in February of 2013. I went with me and my friend Corey, and back then I didn't really know that there was actually Sasquatch sightings in Oklahoma. Through a lot of research and determination, I did find a lot of stories and sightings that happened mostly in this rural town here in the Kiamichi Mountains of Oklahoma. And I live in a small town in North Texas, and I was only about 4 hours away, so I decided to kind of load up and go see what I could find for myself. Me and my friend Corey loaded up one day and made the drive to Oklahoma and set up camp behind Oklahoma's. There in Honobia, there is a cafe. They have food. It's a great place, but they have a area behind there that we camped out at. And when we first got there, we just kind of were thinking, where should we go? What should we do first? It's a very rural area. There's literally no one there. Very surprised about how small it was. And it was a very good place, for a Sasquatch to potentially live if there was one out there. So we just kind of looked at one of the mountain ridges and just said, hey, we're going to climb this one, be up there tonight, and just, make some sounds, listen, see what happens. So a little later on in the evening, after we'd set up camp, we just kind of took off hiking up one of these mountain ridges. Actually, you're looking at the picture of the ridge that we decided to climb up. It was about late afternoon when we started climbing, and we just started climbing up the ridge. And we just climbed until it was about right at dusk is when we got about to the top of the ridge. There was a path at the top of the ridge, a trail that we just started walking down. And as we were walking down it, this is the first time I'd been. I'm, inexperienced in, Bigfooting and what happens, what to do. So I just kind of go off of what I see on TV. I just kind of started making some calls. We were just kind of walking along quietly. I was making some Bigfoot calls based on what I hear on Finding Bigfoot and TV and stuff. And just kind of listening for anything that could be moving. And the funny thing at first is I didn't really take it too seriously about, something actually happening, running into something, finding something, hearing something, I had kind of put that in the back of my mind, because most television shows when they go out, nothing really happens. And, I kind of expected the same thing, but I was wrong. We were walking down the path and it had gotten dark, and somewhere down the path I had decided to make, one really loud call. And I had been making a couple, so, if anything was in the area, it would know where we were at, it would know to come check us out. And so I went ahead and made a call, and the second my voice stopped, there was the loudest slam on the ground, and there was kind of a roll afterwards, and it sounded like a giant rock had been chunked at us and just hit the ground and rolled. Me and him were very startled, knowing that number one, it's not a person because we were at least easily 2 to 3 miles away from the nearest person. We didn't really know what to think at first, so we did kind of pause, and me and him kind of looked at each other and was like, all right, let's turn around. We're on top of this mountain, we're far from camp, it's probably better that we just kind of head back. As we turned around and kept walking, a pretty large sized rock did come out of the woods and hit the ground and roll in front of us. And by then we were pretty panicked because we don't know what's in the woods. It's dark. You can't see in the brush out there. It's too thick. It's dark out. So we just kind of, hauled out of there and hauled back down the mountain, which was quite a trip. And I don't want to go into that, but we eventually got back to camp, where there was a guy who's a geologist, and he works the area quite a bit, and he came over to our camp to kind of chat because he was up as well. And we talked to him, and we told him what had happened, and he was actually not very surprised. He said that one morning he had woken up around 5 a.m. and he heard what sounded like what people say sound like Bigfoot calls coming off of that same mountain ridge that we were just on. I mean, the one we were just on just came down off. He said he heard a call coming from the top. He heard one that was coming from the bottom of the ridge. And then kind of one off in another distance. He said it went on for a good, 10, 15 minutes. He was hearing calls and stuff. So, to hear that, in conjunction with what had just happened, it was quite the experience. I had not expected something like this to happen. But the next day, I decided to kind of hit the other side of the mountains and stick close to my car because, if anything happened, I wanted to be able to get in. Mind you, that this was my first time, so, I was kind of scared after something had actually happened. But so, anyways, we were up towards another mountain ridge around, same time, late evening, dusk. And I made some calls off of this ridge and up and out into this valley area. And I had made a few, and then me and him both had stopped because coming out of the mountain was another howl. It was a clear as day howl. Um, I have it on film. I have the link in the description below if you'd like to listen to it. Me and him could not believe what we were hearing. It was fantastic. It went on for about 20 to 25 seconds. My video camera had only picked up the first, couple seconds. That's all it could catch. But it was just a single sound. It was kind of mimicking what kind of I was shouting out into the woods. And I was able to compare it because a few seconds after that, a group of coyotes had started, yipping, and you can kind of tell the difference, because, coyotes have that yippy sound at the end of their call and their cries, and, they usually impact, so if they cry, it's usually, a bunch of them, but this was one single sound, piercing the mountains, and it was just kind of mind-blowing. Everything that had happened that first time kind of blew my mind. I wasn't expecting anything to happen, but this is where I officially decided to come back anytime I wanted to go bigfooting was here. There was a gold mine of activity just this first, 2 days that I was there. But that was all that happened for the first time I was there. The second time I there, we had, a lot more stuff happen. And, I've been there many times, and I'll share each story about each trip throughout these videos. But I hope you stick around for the other videos. I got some good stories coming up. A lot of other experiences that have happened, some more close than this. So I appreciate you guys listening in, and I'll see you in the next video.